Effects of poverty on government. Effects of poverty on government can be seen in development countries. Poverty imposes a high cost on the government and the community. The cost of the health and justice systems is higher where there is poverty and inequality. For example, people living in low-income areas are hospitalised for preventable diseases, such as diabetes and respiratory conditions, at twice the rates of people in wealthier areas. Effects of poverty on food management. Food management is an issue related to poverty. Poor people face food insecurity, which means that the financial state of a household does not allow access to all the nutritious food essential for their proper growth and development. 100 million people in the world live in extreme and enduring poverty, in which they die early because of their living conditions. 4 million people die per year due to the effects of poverty on food management. The effects of poverty cause hunger, leading to diseases, illness, and death. Poverty affects what we eat because it means that not every family member is getting enough food to eat every day. There are many reasons for this happening, including medical problems, natural disasters, changes in government regulations, war, and high cost of living, especially with regards to food. Effects of poverty on government. Effects of poverty on resource management. Global poverty has a negative impact on resource management all around the world. The lack of funds and resources, and overall low income, raises the need for populations to exploit the environment in order to support themselves. The decreased economic development, increased susceptibility to natural disasters, as well as limited access to healthcare and education are just some of the hardships that occur because of the effects of poverty. In rich countries, resources are not a problem. In poor countries, they are the problem. Poverty has negative effects on the environment. In rich countries, people have enough discretionary income to invest in making their places nicer and more pleasant places to be. For this reason, empty lots are planted as gardens and parks are developed. These places give people an incentive to take care of them because they have ownership and pride in them. In poor countries, it is so hard to make a living that people have little incentive to put money into things like flowers, trees, parks, etc., since these things do not provide food or other essentials necessary for survival. Consequently, cities are much uglier than nice areas in rich counties because most of the spaces between buildings serve no purpose except as areas to dump garbage or things that one no longer wants. Effects of poverty on government are important to know so that we can control them. Effects of poverty on education management. The first negative effect of poverty on education is the access to education. When students do not have money to meet their physical needs, it affects them psychologically. The impact also stems from the lack of educational materials which teachers need in teaching and learning. Poverty leads to poor performance in schools by the students. When the parents or guardians cannot afford to send their children or wards to school or provide for a decent living, the children will automatically display a lack of interest in education and related activities. Inadequate resources would cause difficulties in gathering the necessary inputs needed for quality education provision. Inadequate school facilities such as instructional materials, poor classroom conditions, lack of electricity and water supply and equipment would, in turn, affect the quality of education offered by the teacher. As poverty causes low levels of investment, particularly in human capital, this will prevent individuals from obtaining a good job. Effects of poverty on water management. Poverty is a venture that is devoid of the basic needs of life. These are shelter, food, and clothes. It is caused by many factors. In this case, we look at it from the perspective of water management. One of the most prominent effects of poverty on water management is that the poor usually have limited access to clean water. Poverty has a very strong effect on water resources. The amount of money many people in the world are living with can highly affect their quality of life, especially if they do not have access to clean water and sanitation facilities. When living in poverty, many people are unable to afford clean drinking water. This lack of clean water can lead to a multitude of health problems, from diarrhea to death. Effects of poverty on employment management. Poverty is an issue that affects not only the families who live in these homes but also affects the children growing up in these households as well. When a parent is coping with poverty, it is likely that their children will also be impacted. There are many effects of poverty on employment and customer management skills. Poverty greatly impacts people in many ways, both psychologically and physically. Because they are desperate, they might do even riskier things that might cause them to be incarcerated when caught. So it really kind of creates this cycle where people who are living in poverty are not able to keep a steady job and then get kicked out of their homes for not paying rent. As the economy improves, low-income families experience an increase in their income. However, it may still be difficult to gain and retain employment due to factors associated with low levels of education, unstable family relationships and support systems, as well as limited access to financial resources. Effects of poverty on homeless management. The most important causes of homelessness that account for theoretical thinking in the homelessness literature are lack of affordable housing, low income, and substance abuse. It is important to note that the relationship between these three variables is reciprocal. They contribute to homelessness and create characteristics that make people more likely to become homeless. Homeless management may be affected by several factors. This includes poverty. Having a low income is one of the major effects of poverty. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, approximately 12.7%, or close to 22 million people, of Americans live in poverty. Therefore, there is a significant amount of homeless people in the United States. In order to save our planet for future generations, we need to reduce the effects of poverty on government.